How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Luke's Reviews, and on today's video I will be reviewing Ang Lee's newest technological experiment, an action blockbuster starring Will Smith and Will Smith again, Gemini Man. Holy fuck! Here's the plot for Gemini Man, and I use plot in the loosest sense of the word. Will Smith plays a hitman called Henry who's looking to retire and live a normal life. But as you can imagine, the company he works for don't want that, so send someone to kill him. Who is that someone? It's a clone of himself. Gemini Man is what I would equivalent as close to a science experiment, but it doesn't just fail, it burns the whole factory down. There are a lot of interesting talking points in regards to Gemini Man, but to do so, we need to enter
the tech zone.
It's just 3D glasses. Nothing's different. I don't have a budget for anything else. Gemini Man has been in limbo for years. It was initially a project set to release in the 90s with Tony Scott attached to direct, but I presume that just the technology that they had in mind wasn't there, it wasn't ready yet, so they shelved it. And now in 2019, Ang Lee has picked it up, who's directed hits such as Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Life of Pi, and he's also directed a fair few duds like Hulk or Billy Lynn's Halftime Walk. That was just a weird film. But Ang Lee has literally thrown everything at this movie. Picture a dartboard, and instead of aiming at the bullseye, or heck, even hitting the friggin' dartboard, what this film does is it just throws the dart and it plunges straight into the bartender's eye. The most notable use of technology here is younger Will Smith, and initially I thought that they just de-aged him, as I've seen so many films do nowadays, but nope, he's an entirely CGI character, which on paper actually sounds pretty interesting, and is quite a big step for this fully CGI character to interact with live action actors, but it just isn't as good as it should have been. The movements of his character are far too quick, like he almost glides through the air without resistance. It looks pretty inhumane, and I don't think that's what they were going for, and it doesn't help because he only ever seems to have one expression: sadness. Even when he's meant to be emoting anything else, literally any other emotion, all we get is sad Will Smith. And this CGI isn't helped by the fact that Ang Lee has to go one step further with this technical f***ery. Now, when you watch a movie, more often than not, you will see a movie in 24 frames per second. It's the way that they capture the film. Sometimes you might see a film that is 48 frames per second. The Hobbit films did that, directed by Peter Jackson, and there was a bit of a backlash. Some people said that they couldn't quite get to grips with it, but it wasn't monumental. And you might go on YouTube, and there are some videos out there that are filmed in 60 frames per second, and the idea behind that is to make the image that you're watching as smooth and fluid as possible. Gemini Man was shot in 120 frames per second. That's 5 times the normal frame rate. And I know the idea behind it is to make the picture look as realistic as possible, make it smooth, add this frenetic energy and pace to the action scenes. Now initially I thought that this was quite an inventive filmmaking technique, and I do think somewhere down the line it has promise. But when you are doing a science experiment, you're going to have a few duds along the way before you eventually crack it. The problem is that with those duds, they never then get a worldwide cinematic release. The frame rate here makes the film feel entirely unnatural. In an effort to add realism, it looks artificial. Lee's camera work has always been eccentric, but now with this, it just looks disorientating. And come the action scenes, it becomes so infuriating to watch because all these sharp, rapid movements are then magnified, and it becomes impossible to comprehend what's going on. It makes the whole experience, in my eyes, deeply uncomfortable to watch. And it's simple to break down. Our eyes, surprisingly, don't process through a frame rate. But when we're in a dark room, something is being projected onto the screen, we're used to seeing it in 24 frames per second. 48 frames per second, like I said, at the push, maybe. shouldn't be too much of a problem. But by upping it to 120, our eyes and brain are really struggling to process what we're seeing, because this isn't the way that we've been shown films before. And I know you can make it all sound
He's a pioneer. He's changing the game.
He's not changing the game if the technology itself isn't good to watch. To make matters even worse, all the CGI that may not have been fantastic to start off with just looks even worse, because this frame rate is competing directly at odds with the way that the CGI's been realised, and it points out all the flaws that the CGI can't quite patch up. However though, putting the frame rate faux pas aside, is Gemini Man at least an entertaining action blockbuster? Not in the f***ing slightest. The story is lazy, the script is lazy, the dialogue is shockingly awful. Since when is calling someone a dummy a scathing insult? It follows a generic outline as a killer is being hunted by a company from his past, and now they've just thrown in an identical twin for... because why not, hey? Why not? It's entirely incomprehensible as we flip from one location to another, and they're sitting and they're stewing about what could happen, and then there's an action scene sprinkled in for good measure, and then we're back on a plane or a boat flying off to another location. There's no focus, there's no guide, it's just wandering around aimlessly for 2 hours, expecting you to be so marvelled and blown away by the technology that you aren't even focusing on the fact that they didn't give a rat's ass about the story. As for the performances, no one shines here. Mary Elizabeth Winstead might as well have just slept through the movie. Benedict Wong clearly doesn't care. Clive Owen didn't even care enough to stay in the same accent for the whole movie. And Will Smith, what is the one thing that makes Will Smith stand out from so many other actors? It's not his rapping, it's not his comedic timing, it's his charisma. The dude is one of the most charming Hollywood stars on the planet, and this movie just sucked all charisma possible out of his character, giving him nothing to work with. There really is nothing more to say about Gemini Man. It is a failed science experiment that tried something daring and fell arse over tit doing it. The high frame rate is extremely disorientating, but when mixed with 3D, it becomes practically impossible to watch. Ang Lee is way off his game here, the script is a shambles, and not even the charm of Will Smith can make this bearable. I wanted to like this film, I really did, but just like I said in my review for Joker, where seemingly every single element of filmmaking came together in the best way possible, here in Gemini Man, it came together in the worst way possible. Overall, I'm going to give Gemini Man a 1.5 out of 10. Anyway guys, those were my heated comments on Gemini Man. I'm really interested to know what you guys thought of the film, so leave a comment below. Also, there's not going to be a question for this video. I'm more just wanting to get your idea on the whole frame rate discussion. Do you agree with it? Do you think it's something that you can see being a success down the line? Are you kind of on my side where it just was quite frankly unpleasant to watch? This is going to be an interesting one. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought of this film down in the comments below. If you have enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. The links to all of my social media accounts are in the description below. Many thanks for watching guys, and I shall see you in the next video.